I once thought a capable woman like me would never fall into the cliched tragedy of a cheating husband. At 28, I was the legal director of Horizon Group, one of the top 3 private conglomerates in Seattle. I had a handsome, charming, brilliant husband, Michael Harris, the vice president of brand development. Online, we were the nation's power couple of business. In real life, we were 2 people sharing a bed but communicating through meeting schedules. People called it the successful marriage of mature adults. I didn't disagree. Until that fateful evening. The gala to welcome Horizon's new strategic investor took place on the 48th floor of the luxurious Golden Lion Hotel. Crystal chandeliers cast light on the navy blue dress I'd chosen after 15 seconds in front of the mirror. I wanted to keep my image simple, strong, quintessential Emma, as Michael once said, "With you, I don't need to wear a mask." I arrived on time, he was 10 minutes late. He walked in with a woman in a fitted white dress, her hair softly curled, her eyes sparkling like morning dew. Lily Stone, a name that sent a chill through my heart. I'd once seen an old photo in his wallet. Her at 18, in a school uniform, leaning on his shoulder in the slanting afternoon sun. Back then, I didn't ask, not out of nobility, but because I believed everyone's past should stay buried. I never expected that past to resurface in the present, as a strategic investor, a major new shareholder of my company, and my husband's companion. I didn't stand to greet her, didn't confront him. I raised my glass of wine, clinked it lightly against Lily's when she offered, and smiled gently. "I've heard of Ms. Lily for a while, meeting you now, you truly have an impressive presence." She smiled back, her eyes flicking to the wedding ring on my finger. "Ms. Emma, you're stunning too." Michael sure has an eye for people. I didn't respond. I wasn't the type to waver over polished provocations. I just felt a chill down my spine, like standing on the edge of a skyscraper's rooftop, then someone silently pushing me from behind, falling, but not yet hitting the ground. The gala passed under soft golden lights and clinking glasses. The next morning, I was summoned to an urgent board meeting. "Emma, the contract with New Dawn Group has a clause severely detrimental to Horizon. You signed it directly, how do you explain this?" I stood frozen. I'd reviewed that contract 3 times, every clause, every word. But the version on the screen, bearing my signature and electronic seal, had a completely different clause. If Horizon terminated early, we'd owe 3 years of projected revenue. No sane lawyer would agree to that. "This isn't the contract I approved," I said. Another director cut in, "But it has your seal. Your digital signature. If you didn't approve it, who did?" I couldn't speak. I looked at Michael Harris, silent since the meeting began. He didn't defend me, didn't deny, didn't confirm. He just furrowed his brow slightly, as if regretting my carelessness. "Temporarily suspend legal director Emma Wright's duties pending an internal investigation," the chairman concluded. I packed up and returned to my office, my heart hollow. Sarah, my assistant, handed me an unmarked envelope someone had dropped off. Inside was a photocopy of the contract as I'd approved it, no signature, no seal. In red ink at the corner, fingerprints. "If you're as smart as they say, you'll know where to start." I gripped the paper. Someone had swapped the contract. I'd been set up. And the clearest truth of all, the one who framed me was the man who once vowed to love me until we grew old. I thought, after my stumble at the shareholders' meeting, he'd at least come to explain, to justify, to say something, even if meaningless. But no. Michael Harris vanished from home for 2 days, leaving only an envelope and a bank card. I opened the letter, brief, "Emma, I know you're tired. Take a break. I've booked a room at Lakeview Resort in Vermont. Go clear your mind. I'll handle things at the company." I smirked. His apologies were always elegant, cold as marble. A precise stab wrapped in silk. I set the card on the table, untouched. I didn't need his money. I needed the truth. 3 days later, I arrived at Lakeview, but only to play along. I brought my laptop, external drive, and a legitimate reason to access the company's internal system, reviewing legal files. I'd designed the security protocols, they hadn't revoked my access yet. At first, I didn't plan to dig deep. I just wanted to know when the contract was swapped, by whom, maybe a clerical error. I was still that naive. But when I accessed the legal department's archive, everything was gone. Emails, contract scans, presentations, erased. A chill crawled from my neck to my shoulders. People don't wipe data for mistakes, they wipe it when they're guilty. I texted Sarah, need a trusted tech team, urgent, data recovery, tell no one but you. Within 2 hours, 3 freelance tech experts Sarah had worked with arrived. I paid them from my own pocket, no company invoices. We holed up in a small room at the end of the resort's Villa Row, a place people rented to write novels or meditate. I wasn't writing a book, I was digging a grave. 3 days later, we recovered part of the internal drive's data, and I found something that left my palms clammy with cold sweat. A chain of emails between Michael Harris's corporate address and Lily Stone. The first was titled simply, Strategic Transfer Fund Setup. Sent 11 months ago, while I was in the hospital after emergency stomach surgery for acute inflammation. I remembered that time clearly. Just out of anesthesia, he held my hand, kissed my forehead, eyes red, saying, "Don't think about work. Just get better." Turns out, while I was sedated, he was plotting with his ex to save the company. I read every line. It started with portfolio restructuring, then shifted to strategic partnerships. In one attachment, my name appeared, "She trusts you completely. I'll send the draft contract, just get her to sign while she's still weak. Say it's a power of attorney for bank formalities." I didn't recall what I signed back then, maybe a stack of papers mixed with hospital forms. He'd brought them one evening, saying they were internal documents to review. I signed, eyes half closed, because I trusted. Staring at the screen, I saw another version of myself, blind, exhausted, foolish. Lily Stone was clever, leaving no trace beyond that email, no attachments. Maybe she sent hard copies, but that email alone let me piece together the trap. Michael Harris didn't just betray me physically, he betrayed me with strategy, calculation, and a cruelty honed by sweet words. I called Sarah, "I'm coming back to Seattle. Tell David to meet me at nightfall." "Why him?" she whispered. I paused for a second. David, an independent financial lawyer, was my grad school classmate. He'd been falsely sued by Lily Stone, lost his license, nearly lost everything. I believed he hadn't forgotten, he just needed an ally, someone who knew what it was to lose it all to a woman who mastered crocodile tears. I closed my laptop, looked out at Lakeview's water. The lake was clear, a gentle breeze rippling its surface, red lanterns flickering in reflection. Oddly, I wasn't sad. I was calm. You only fear when you're still being led. Now, I knew the path of every thorn. The game had begun, and I was no longer their pawn. For the first time, I felt a thrill in being underestimated. A month after my voluntary leave, Michael Harris threw an internal party to celebrate the new partnership with Prosperity Fund. The invite came via email, no name, just a cold subject, invitation to former executives for appreciation gala. I laughed. Former executive? In under a quarter, I'd gone from legal director to history, but I wore a long dress, hair neatly up, heels high as always. If they wanted me as a backdrop, I'd be the most stunning one that night. The party was on the top floor of Horizon's building, where I once led board meetings, pitched legal strategies. Now, I stood by the buffet, holding a wine glass like a reluctant guest. Lily, in white, hair cascading, stood by Michael Harris like the true hostess. She smiled lightly, avoiding my gaze, but I knew she felt my stare, patient, almost mockingly so. I stepped forward, raised my glass. Congrats on your perfect teamwork. Michael hesitated, then said politely, Emma, I'm glad you came. Lily tilted her head, eyes sparkling. Miss Emma, still as striking as ever, no wonder Michael couldn't forget you. I smiled, no matter. People often cling to what they've discarded yet still foolishly remains loyal. Lily froze. Michael quietly went to fetch more wine. I turned away as Sarah touched my arm, whispering, I got to Helen, the old chief accountant. She's retiring, unafraid of job loss, but needs privacy. 3 days later, I met Helen at a quiet tea shop near Riverside District. In her 50s, thin, cautious-eyed, she began, I don't want trouble. Then paused. But if your suspicions are right, I have documents raising questions about Prosperity Fund's cash flow. She opened her bag, pulled out a statement. I saw it instantly, 3 intermediary accounts, receiving repeated transfers from Horizon's funds, labeled as project operating fees. Then, the money funneled to a financial LLC, Crown, run by Lily before merging into Prosperity. Money mixing, I hissed inwardly. They weren't just playing with emotions, they were playing with accounting. And this game, I knew the rules well. That evening, I met David at nightfall, where we'd studied together in grad school. Now a bankruptcy finance expert, he wasn't surprised to see me, saying only, finally, you're striking back. I showed him the documents, told him everything, the emails, the hospital signing. David was quiet for a long time. Lily sued me for refusing to bend the law for her company. It took me 3 years to regain my license. I never thought she'd use the same trick to kill someone else. I looked at him, will you help me? For personal revenge, I need someone who knows the law and knows them. He nodded, voice low, I'll not only help you protect yourself, I'll help you take them down. No promises, no thanks needed. Just the silence of people who knew the law and the game. That night, I returned to my old apartment, opened my laptop, and stared at our wedding photo. Michael Harris, his tilted smile, I'd loved it so much. Now, it was just a perfect mask. And I'd believed it for 3 years. But the game had started. I was no longer a pawn. I'd be the one to topple the queen. I once thought nothing hurt more than betrayal. But there was something crueler, pity for the one who stabbed you in the back. That morning, I sat by the window, early winter sun filtering through thin curtains, holding an unsigned divorce petition. Not from hesitation, I just wasn't ready to let them know I'd let go of this marriage completely. I slipped the paper into an envelope, left it on the table. As expected, that evening, Michael Harris came home. No knock, no warning, as if it were still his place. I didn't stand to greet him, just poured tea, sat still. He saw the envelope, went quiet. You want a divorce, he said, not surprised, just tired. I nodded slightly. He sighed, stepped forward, sat across from me. No evasion, no denial, he apologized, Emma, some things you'll never understand. I owe Lily a life. I smirked, a life debt paid with your wife's honor? He gave a sad smile. Back then, she tried to kill herself over a forced divorce. My mother nearly had a heart attack from the shock. If I hadn't broken the engagement, both women might have died. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He wrapped his guilt in duty, as if his actions were noble and I was collateral damage. I just wanted to keep her name clean, he added. That cut like a dull knife, slicing through the trust I'd clung to, each word gentle and ruthless. I asked, and me? Doesn't my name matter? He went silent. That silence was his final answer. The next evening, the Horizon board received a 3-minute video surveillance footage from an apartment. Lily Stone, in a white robe, stood on a 12th-floor balcony, eyes teary, holding a divorce paper, crying, "If I weren't so flawed, he wouldn't have left me. I have no reason to live." Then a dramatic scream before she fell into the arms of the person filming. The video cut off amid chaos, shouts, and a caption. Lily was saved immediately after. The board buzzed. Some, already skeptical of the partnership, leaned towards sympathy. They wondered, was Lily truly a victim of her past? Did she deserve redemption? I read the emails, the consoling messages, and wanted to laugh. Lily Stone knew how to make people forget the real victim, but I didn't. I called David. "I'll show them who deserves pity." He paused, then asked, "Got evidence yet?" I didn't have the original footage, but I knew someone who did, a professional videographer from a media firm Lily hired for her Inspiring Women campaign. David said, "I'll prep the file. Once we have the original, we can sue for defamation and shareholder manipulation." I hung up, sat in the dark. I no longer expected justice from a man blind to right and wrong. I just wanted those hypocrites to taste the pity they'd weaponized against me. And when that day came, I'd sit in the front row, no tears, no smile, just a nod that I'd seen it coming. One lesson from this wreckage: revenge doesn't need noise. With enough smarts and patience, silence can be the sharpest blade. David and I met at an old tea shop in Eastway Alley, a haunt for young lawyers after long trials. He brought a thick envelope, an anonymous financial complaint for the Market Oversight Agency and securities regulators. No signature, no trace, just meticulously logical evidence. Over 3 weeks, I'd gathered it all: forged contracts with tampered signatures, transferred documents with smudged fingerprints, scanned emails between intermediaries, and Lily hinting at cooked books. The more I saw, the more disgusted I was, not just by their actions, but by their belief I'd never catch on. We filed that afternoon from an IP at a net cafe far from Seattle, as a concerned anonymous shareholder questioning financial transparency. By the next evening, Horizon's office issued an internal notice: an emergency shareholders meeting, Monday morning, 19th floor hall. Eligible shareholders to register on time. I registered as a private shareholder, owning 4.7% via South Trust, a fund my aunt set up years ago. The secretariat replied within an hour, curt and polite: "We warmly welcome Ms. Emma Wright's participation." Laughable, they didn't know I was moving the pieces. Lily Stone seemed clueless still. On social media, she posted a photo hand-in-hand with Michael Harris, a new sports car behind them, captioned, "Everyone gets a new start. Thanks for always choosing me." I read, didn't comment. I didn't need captions to prove anything. Instead, I went to David's office, where he finalized financial statements and testimonies from 2 witnesses, Helen, the accountant, and a file clerk. "Tomorrow's a public game," David said. "But we let them move first." I nodded. If they thought they were winning, they'd bare their claws. At the meeting, I wore a black suit, hair up, light makeup, a forgettable shareholder look. I sat in the 3rd row, among middle-aged men in suits and 2 minor female shareholders, all glued to their phones, none knowing me. When Michael Harris took the podium, confidence radiated from him. Lily, in deep green, stood beside him, poised for a medal. He spoke of restructuring shares, optimizing profits, leveraging prosperity for green investment trends. I sat still, waiting for the Q&A. I raised my hand, a question, I began, calm, unhurried. "Does the prosperity contract allow funds from public joint ventures to be diverted to unclear personal accounts?" The room went silent. A secretariat member flipped papers, stammering, "No, it doesn't." I continued, then please review the September transfer receipts and accounting records, showing adjusted figures. I'd like the board's transparent response. Michael Harris's face drained of color. Lily whispered to him, panicked. I knew the water was in their boat, and when it sank, the guiltiest would flounder first. I stayed through the meeting, didn't leave, didn't interrupt. But I knew, after today, no one would see me as Michael Harris's ex-wife. I'd be their rival. If justice surprises most, it's the kind they underestimated. And I, the one they thought would stay silent, became the gavel of that nameless trial. The meeting hit its crux, a proposal for senior restructuring. On the big screen, Lily Stone's slide appeared, not charts or plans, but her portrait beside, nomination for vice president, Lily Stone. Michael Harris sat there, pride in his eyes. They thought this game would end in applause for her assent. I stood, I'd like to speak. The air tensed, shareholders glanced at each other. I walked to the center, placed a neatly bound stack of documents on the table. This contains evidence that Lily Stone, nominee for VP, conducted at least 3 off-the-books deals with foreign partners, including illegal contract changes and profit diversions via shell companies. Murmurs erupted. I won't be interrupted. Here's a recording of Lily and a crowning rep, promising insider share perks post-restructuring. Tech team, please. The audio played, Lily's voice clear. Just keep the split quiet, and we're fine. I'll handle the audit. Internally, I'll convince them. Before the second clip, VP Nathan, long neutral, stood, this is power manipulation. I moved to halt the meeting and audit all restructuring finances. Lily trembled, a misunderstanding. That recording's edited. I just wanted, Nathan's voice cut like a blade, enough. The hall doors swung open. 3 investigators entered with a summons. Lily Stone, we've received a complaint regarding asset transfer violations and stock manipulation. Come with us. She froze, eyes begging Michael, but he sat rigid, a statue. I didn't watch them take her, just quietly gathered my files. A compliance officer spoke, what about Michael Harris? As her not yet divorced husband, is he liable for concealing conflicts of interest? Nathan didn't hesitate. I proposed suspending CEO Harris pending investigation. Michael lurched up, speechless. For the first time, he saw blind loyalty wasn't a shield forever. I left the hall as afternoon light bathed the corridor. In my hand wasn't victory, but a necessary end to a false era. Tomorrow, the press might report, CEO suspended amid financial and romantic scandal. But I cared not for their lost titles, only for the honor they'd stripped from me, now reclaimed. And one more thing, the game wasn't over. My next move wouldn't just target them, but the system that propped them up, silenced me, denied my existence. It wouldn't stand much longer. I once wondered how far a betrayed, wounded, broken person could forgive. After that meeting, Michael Harris became a shadow. Fired, investigated, foreign partners dropped his prized contracts. 3 days later, he came to my old pre-marriage apartment, unannounced, soaked from rain, clutching files, eyes weary. I won't let you in. You still live here? He asked, voice low. No, I rented it for 2 days for peace. I stood in the doorway, uninviting. Michael Harris stared, then handed me a paper, the original divorce petition. I know you wrote one. I was foolish, Emma, thinking I owed Lily. I said nothing, just watched the man who was my husband, no longer polished, confident, just lost in his own ashes. Do you still love me? He asked. I laughed, not at the question, but at how often I'd asked myself. Only without love can I watch you fall and not ache. He stiffened. I met his gaze, unblinking, nothing left at all, he pressed. I loved you until I wasn't myself. But once I woke up, that love became a memory to clean out fast. I pulled my signed divorce petition from my bag, handed it over, file it. I won't fight for assets, demand compensation, or need apologies. From now, we're strangers. He tried to speak, but I shut the door, no anger, no tears, just a light emptiness, like dropping a heavy suitcase I'd carried too long. That afternoon, I went to the bank, closed our joint accounts, transferred my share to a personal one, transparent, legal. Then, at David's law office, I signed papers to liquidate my Horizon investments. I took no more than my legal share, not from nobility, but because I wanted nothing tainted by betrayal. As I left, rain fell, the scent of wet earth and exhaust mingling in the city air. I opened my umbrella, walked among the crowd, no longer a CEO's wife, no trophy behind someone's success. I was me, a woman pushed to the bottom, who didn't die but swam up. And from now, I'd never be weak again. One hurt was enough. Seattle in early winter, the wind cold but not biting. My heart was tougher than the breeze. After the divorce, I left the investment circles, not to flee, but to pull back like an arrow before release. 2 months later, a new name emerged in commercial law, Wright and Company. Legal advisors. That was me, Emma Wright, and my co-founder, none other than David, the lawyer Lily Stone once cast into the dark for standing up to her. No grand opening, no party, just an article in the Business Journal, typical financial pitfalls in family firms and the cost of blind concession. No names, but anyone following Horizon's fall knew the target. I didn't fight with swords, I used words, commercial law, the shield they'd mocked. Within a week, Wright and Company was on the search list of 12 private firms needing internal dispute help. Not because I was the best, but because I'd hit rock bottom and knew how family ties choke. And I knew how to cut them, legally, timely. Michael Harris, post-meeting, was ousted, vanished from news. Rumors said he sold his shares, left Seattle for Santa Barbara, living quietly. Some claimed he opened a beachside cafe, off social media. His mother, Mrs. Harris, who once saw me as her son's accessory, resigned as Horizon's advisor 2 weeks after the scandal. In a press interview, she said coldly, "Wrongdoers pay, even my son." Some pitied him, I didn't. No one pities those who drag others into the mud under the guise of saving them. I didn't smear him, didn't dig up more dirt, didn't lift a hand to save him. I was no longer his wife, never his cushion to tread on. I was Emma Wright, a woman trapped by false kindness, now wielding those wounds to shield the weak in this legal world. I'd lost, but now I won, needing no one's validation. My steady existence today was the loudest rebuke to those who wanted me gone. Wright and Company turned one on the last day of spring. On the reception desk sat pale green hydrangeas, a color I'd said brought calm. No party, just a legal seminar, a few close guests, tea, pastries, knowing smiles. David arrived 10 minutes late, a first in our 365 days together. I was about to tease when he walked in, apologetic, oddly nervous. After the talk, before everyone, he pulled a small box from his pocket, set it before me. No music, no confetti, no cheers, just, "I swore never to trust wrongly again, but this time, I'll bet my life to have you in it." I looked at the ring, simple silver, my name engraved inside, no dazzling diamonds. I didn't say yes, didn't cry. I just nodded quietly. Some things, a nod replaces all the past shatter. We didn't pick a fancy venue, didn't invite press or big partners. A small wedding in Santa Barbara, where Michael Harris was said to live, but we didn't search. We weren't hiding, just choosing a place to breathe, to slow down. That afternoon, the beach was empty, waves and wind brushing my simple white dress. No train, no glitz, no veil, just my eyes meeting David's, whole and enough. No grand vows, no eternal promises. We placed hands on each other's chests, felt heartbeats, knew this was home. No proof, no blessings needed. We were old enough to know marriage isn't a show, but a firm choice of two people who'd tasted enough bitterness to value gentleness. That day, the sea was calm as a lake, the sky a blessing. I looked up, made no wish, just whispered, "Thank you, for not choosing wrong in the end." And that was enough. Spring mornings in Seattle, gentle as fresh oolong tea, not too strong, not too light, just right for peace. I sat in Wright and Company's 15th floor office, sorting closed case files. Soon, David and I would meet a new client, a female director tricked by her husband into signing a loan against her assets. Life still spun sad cycles, but this time, I wasn't the one pushed down. My phone buzzed, a parcel from Seattle's Market Oversight and Audit Office, from my anonymous complaint a year ago. I opened it, an official notice, brief, Lily Stone, former interim executive of Horizon Group, sentenced to 8 years in prison for forging documents, illegal asset transfers, and money laundering collusion, no bail. I paused, not from joy, but because a chapter truly closed. I folded the paper, tucked it into the bottom drawer of my old oak desk, the only relic from Michael Harris's first office, the one decent thing he'd done before turning away. I looked up, sunlight flooding the glass, golden rays brushing the desk, my hands. I smiled, not for their consequences, but for crossing through without looking back. I'd never forget them, how they framed me, betrayed me, stole 5 years of my devoted youth. But I wouldn't let them take another second of my heart. The past can't change, but the present is a choice, and I chose to let go, not forgive, to keep my heart wider than the pain. They dug my grave, I filled it, planted flowers. They bloomed beautifully, not for show, but to remind me I survived, stood up, moved on without a hand to hold. Leaving the office with David, I held his hand tight. Across the street, a young couple led a toddling child. Sunlight bathed their faces, radiant as an unwounded life. I didn't regret trusting the wrong person, only thanked myself for choosing right in the end. I once thought busyness was escape. Now, I saw that with a calm heart, you could be busy to live, not flee. Wright and Company added 2 new members, Amy, a chatty intern who snacked but wrote razor-sharp briefs, and a tabby cat, Lawyer Meow, who wandered in last month. David initially said no pets in a law office, then fed it German pate, whispering, "Eat slowly, this is imported." We still worked together, less tense now. I stopped biting my lip over report errors, he stopped frowning when I read pen drafts. We learned to laugh at mistakes, not blame when tired. One early summer morning, I got an invite to a seminar on women's post-divorce rights. I didn't decline but didn't speak. I sat in the back, watching women share their stories, some trembling, some strong enough for applause. I wondered, 3 years ago, would I have dared stand there, recounting sleepless nights? Probably not. But I believed if that girl saw me now, she'd smile, softly, sincerely. That afternoon, David and I hit the supermarket, bickering 10 minutes over dish soap. At home, I cooked noodles, he fixed the balcony light, saying, "Every time I see it, I think of you." We ate, watched an old movie, dozed off mid-climax, leaving actors weeping on screen. Waking at midnight, I poured water, stood on the balcony, watched cars glide below. I'd traveled a long, painful road, lost someone dear, to learn not to lose myself. I no longer asked why me. I just told myself, thank goodness I'm still whole. And tomorrow, I'd rise early. I'd take Lawyer Meow for shots. Help Amy fix a petition. Argue with David over 25 or 26 degrees for the AC, live, unhurried, unstrained, unresentful. Just a day passing, no rush. That day, Seattle's rain was light, persistent, as if the weather conspired for a touch of sudden romance for those learning peace. I sat in Wright and Company's small meeting room, tweaking a speech for a legal talk at Evergreen University. Mid-choice between two intros, David walked in, holding a square box, looking nervous. I teased, "No summons from the prosecutor, right?" He smiled, then fumbled open the box. A pair of nude flats, my style, my size. "For you, to stand comfortably on stage." I meant to jest, but stopped. The man who debated for hours over the legality of unpermitted memes stood there, hands stiff, over shoes. "Thanks. I'll wear them till the road ends." He laughed, a hoarse laugh, crinkling his eyes, the kind that promised a nagging husband who'd never forget an anniversary. That night, we did nothing grand. I boiled noodles, he chopped veggies. Amy was at her grandma's, Lawyer Meow sprawled under the table. I turned, asked, "If we had a kid, what'd you teach first?" He thought, how to say no, to reject what hurts, even if it's love, family, or duty. I paused, nodded. "You?" he asked. I smiled. "I'd teach them that, even if abandoned, they can hug themselves to sleep, and one day, they'll find someone who won't let them sleep alone." He said nothing, just squeezed my hand, gentle but firm. After dinner, we spread a rug, read in the living room. Rain fell outside. I leaned on his shoulder. On TV, a travel show explored Denver at night. The host asked a man in his 70s, "What makes life worth living?" He said, "Coming home at night, and someone's turned on the light for you." I squeezed David's hand, whispered, "I walked through so much dark, but finally, someone lit the way." He kissed my forehead. I closed my eyes, letting that warmth fill me, not blazing happiness, but a steady, lasting glow, like summer rain. Quiet, but truly unforgettable. At 62, David 3 years my senior, he started calling me old lady instead of Emma. I said, "That sounds too old." He replied, deadpan, "You think you're still young?" I pointed to our wedding photo, me in a simple white dress on Santa Barbara's shore, him fumbling to pin a flower in my hair. "This beauty, old?" He looked, nodded, "Nice photo, but the person's probably down to 40% of that charm now." I tossed a pillow at his face, missing. We lived in a small house outside Burlington, with a yard, trees, a dog. Lawyer Meow passed years ago. Now we had Standard, an old dog David rescued during a shelter quality check. Standard wasn't smart or quick, but loyal, like my husband. Mornings, I drank chamomile tea, he read the paper. We bickered over who forgot to turn off the stove, then strolled to a park 500 meters away. On rainy days, I wrote legal notes for old readers. Retired, I still penned pieces for law students, sharing survival tips from boardrooms. David tinkered with cameras, saying landscapes soothe more than courtroom fights. One day, I teased, "If my memory fades, will you read my life's chapters back to me?" He paused, then said, "Just forget the old pain, and I'll read the rest as many times as you need." I didn't cry, just gripped his hand tighter. We didn't live grandly, didn't globetrot, didn't host inspirational shows. We just lived, truly, like two people who'd climbed from rubble, built anew hand in hand. Each night, I brewed 2 teas, one for me, one for him, set them on the old wooden table by an open window, listening to crickets and wind. He sat beside, looked at me, said, "Thanks for not giving up on yourself, and so, not on me." I smiled, "I don't need you perfect, just patient enough to walk with me this far." I leaned on his shoulder. We said no more. We didn't need to. Love, at a certain age, needs no noise, just the other there, looking the same way, and that's beautiful enough.